The Rockets and Knicks were in Game 5 when OJ started that fateful drive. His four-way hazard lights were blinking, and no one knew what the Jews was thinking.
I've been to Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Winslow, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa, Oklahoma, Tampa, Panama, Mattawa, La Paloma, Bangor, Baltimore, Salvador, Amarillo, Tocopilla, Barranquilla, and Padilla. I'm a killer. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
This is Oversight Live, your advocate for good governance. We're putting the site back in. Oversight. Here's the watcher on the wall, your host, Ben Carpenter.
And good evening, everyone. Let's shut that off. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is Oversight Live. What is Oversight Live? If you're just joining us for the first time, Alaskans know our state capitol and legislature are only accessible by plane and ferry. It's prohibitively expensive in both time and money for most Alaskans to visit on a regular basis. Providing oversight on our elected representatives and our government is a greater challenge for Alaskans than it is for most Americans in other states. Oversight Live is your road to Juneau until a real one can be built. We'll bring you convenient and relevant content of meetings of legislative nature or of government nature that you need to be informed of and educated on the actual truth without traveling to Juneau or having to filter the biases of news media outlets, other social media, content, opinions. I'm going to bring you the raw video so you can see and hear for yourself. You'll have the opportunity to engage with me and other Alaskans. We're broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, and X, and whichever app or platform you choose to use. You can text during the live show, and I will get your texts as well as others that are listening or watching with you on that platform. Send me your questions. I'll try to answer them on air. If I can't, we'll get back to you with answers as best we can. Contact information. Tonight, I'm going to show you how to access the individuals on the AK-Leg website, our government website, so you can see how to find who you need to contact. And for those of you that don't know how. So, Alaka Road, it's a major inconvenience for Alaskans, but it's not the only valid excuse. It's not a valid excuse for providing oversight because we have technology. Okay, if you think of questions afterwards, you can drop them in the social media chat on the video recording or send me an email. You can email me at producer@oversightlive.com. producer@oversightlive.com, and that will get you an email to me. I'll do my best to respond. Okay. Video clips are provided by KTOO Gavel, Alaska. And if you can click on this link, if your social media platform will allow you to just click right on the screen on that link, it'll take you to the Gavel, Alaska website where you can double check me, download or watch the video right there. I am editing the video. I'm showing you just clips of the raw video in its entirety. So you can go to the Gavel website and find the data for yourself if you want. I can't bring you everything that happens in Juneau. There's way too much going on down there. But what I can do is try to prioritize and bring you things that I think are important and are important to shape the conversations that we're having at home and with elected representatives, and as the the election season ramps up here after session. And I guess I should say during session when the gubernatorial race is happening this year. So with that, let me jump to a screen share, and I'm gonna share this legislative website. All right, so if you go to akleg.gov, you're going to come up with a homepage, and you click on committees, and you click on standing committees, and you'll come to the different committees. Click on the committee, and then it shows you exactly who the representatives are. So today we're going to review some clips from House Finance Committee that happened yesterday. That's got 3 co-chairs, as you can see. Representative Foster, Josephson, and Schrage are the co-chairs. Representative Josephson will be chairing this meeting. And then you've got Representatives Galvin, Hannon, Jimmy, Stapp, Tomaszewski, Allard, Bynum, and Moore round out the committee. So that's who we're going to hear from today as we watch less than 20 minutes of a video here that I think is pertinent. Okay, let's stop sharing the screen. All right, for the first clip, I want to tee this up. The House Finance Committee brought in Amy DeVaris. She's the director of the Alaska Division of Personnel, for a conversation about the personnel situation and some studies that had been appropriated by the legislature. And this is a huge issue. It's not a sexy issue. This is going to put you to sleep. Stick with me because it's important. The largest expense in any business and in government is personnel. It's pay and benefits. When people say, hey, why can't we reduce spending in Juneau? Because you got to deal with pay and benefits if you're going to make a stamp on any sort of reduction of spending long term. Okay, and we'll get into this, and I'll discuss this a little bit as the program goes on. And at the end, I'll bring it all together for you. So let's get started. And I've pulled this clip to start with the Ms. DeVaris' testimony and questions from the committee. Should be interesting if you like this kind of stuff. All right. I get a kick out of it. I enjoy it. And I guess somebody has to, because I know there are plenty of people that this will put you to sleep. Again, it's important for you to understand.
Good afternoon, House Finance Committee members. My name is Amy DeVaris. I am the Director of the Division of Personnel under the Department of Administration. I thank you for the opportunity to give a status update on the salary study today. I want to mention I'm just shy of my 3-month anniversary of working in state service, so I hope you'll be patient with me as I navigate the procedures and expectations here today.
Well, you should be more nervous than Director Bing, because
I'm sure that's an understatement.
All right.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Through the chair, the statewide salary study. The font looks odd, so I'm a little thrown back. The salary study was launched following a legislative appropriation in FY24 of about $1 million. It was a multi-year appropriation to account for the large scope of the project.
Okay, pause. She said FY24. That means it was calendar year 2023, legislative session in 2023 for fiscal year 2024. Okay. So we're talking about a study that the legislature requested when I was in the legislature in 2023. That was one of the things that the legislature did while the Republicans were in control of the House. this has been a long time coming. 6 years in the legislature, we needed a pay study and a salary study and classification study for a long time. And it is there. I think there are possibly reasons why we don't want to have studies, but we'll get into that. So let me let Mr. DeVaris finish her statement here.
Primary goals of the project were to increase applicant pools for state of Alaska positions by making the state a more competitive employer, and to identify potential cost savings for job classes where the state is overmarket in its salary structure. This study, conducted by Siegel Company, was finalized in January of 2025 and released in April of 2025. The study provides valuable insight into how the state of Alaska base pay compares with market benchmarks. The report highlights the complexities of the state's current classification and pay system, particularly the challenges posed by the broad pay structures that group diverse occupational roles under a single pay plan.
We're going to come back to that at the end of this show.
The structure limits the state's ability to make across-the-board changes. The Siegel Company's recommendations focus on modernizing the state's classification and pay plans in a manner that is equitable and also agile to changing workforce conditions. Questions through the chair?
Nope. I think we'll go to slide 3.
To move the initiative forward, the Department of Administration issued a request for information, which was open December 18th, 2025 through today, February 2nd, 2026, to gather input from qualified vendors on timelines and costs associated with implementing structural changes to the state's classification and pay plans. Good afternoon.
Okay, so if you're still wondering exactly what we're talking about here, in order to determine whether you are paying state employees, the correct amount, you have to do this bureaucratic shuffle, this study to determine whether you're paying them the right thing. Because it's like a business owner, a small business owner would just say, hey, look, I'm going to go to the website, the labor website, and see what the average pay is for this job that I'm paying somebody, whether they're a welder, a carpenter, or in the medical field or whatever. So the job that I'm hiring them to do, and I'm going to make an assessment as to whether the pay that I'm paying them is comparable to what other people are reporting to the government what they're paying. So it is something that the private industry does should be doing on a regular basis to make sure that they're competitive. I mean, the result is if you're not competitive, your employees probably don't stay with you and they go somewhere that's going to pay more. But because this is a bureaucracy, we have to do a study. That's how the process works. That's the current process. So we'll do a study, pay somebody $1 million, because that's what was appropriated, to do this study to tell us whether our pay is right or not. All right, clip number 2.
Director, a question from Representative Stapp, and then I have one of my own. Representative Stapp.
Thank you, Co-Chair Justin, to the chair, to the director. Okay, so we paid for a study, we got information from the study, and now we are asking for another study to tell us how to implement the last study we paid for. Is that correct, through the chair?
Director DeVaris.
Through the chair. Thank you for the question. We did learn a lot from the salary study and the report that we received from that. Because we are looking at the potential for making structural changes to the state's classification system, which will be a very complicated project, we did put out this RFI to receive refined information that would help us to create plans for that, scope the cost, scope different phases potentially for that type of implementation.
So a pay study is different than a classification study. Okay, so we have pay scales and then we have job classifications. classifications would be, I think, if I don't, I've never worked in personnel and state government here, but classifications would be your different job duties as they are written down for that particular person, right? So your classification of what it is that a entry-level person would do versus somebody who's, moved on to a supervisory position. What is the classifications that happen within each one of the different jobs or career paths, if you will, or different logical jobs that people get hired into? And then a pay study is comparing that to other factors to determine whether or how much the state should be paying the individuals that are in each one of those classifications. Boy, I hope I got that right.
Fault, Mr. Co-Chair.
Follow-up, Representative Stapp.
Yeah, thank Co-Chair Justin, through the chair. When do you expect this follow-on implementation study to be completed and implemented, through the chair?
So, beg your pardon, through the chair. Thank you for the question, Representative Stapp. What we will be receiving, as the RFI closes today, is information from qualified vendors that will help us create a plan or a strategy for moving forward. So it's not another salary study. It's simply the information that we would need in order to scope a comprehensive project to essentially revamp the state's classification system.
Fault, Mr. Co-Chair.
Follow-up, Representative Stapp.
Yeah, sorry, Co-Chair Justin, through the chair. No, I understand that, Director. I'm saying, so we requesting information based off the study that we funded that took a long time to get out. So now we're saying that this is the implementation, so it's materially different. And that closes February 2nd. So then what happens? So when should we expect a finality to this lengthy process? Is that this year? Is that next year? Is that 15 years from now that we'll be done with our salary study? Through the chair, do we have any kind of forest through the trees thing here? Through the
Director
chair?
DeVeres.
Through the chair, thank you, Representative Stapp, for the question. I understand the reason for asking it. It will take some amount of time to establish a plan, establish anticipated costs of that, work with OMB and the governor's office to determine a timeline forward. There is nothing in the FY27 proposed budget, for example, for this. So I think, we would be looking at at least a year to develop those plans.
Director, a question from Representative Stapp.
So I just want to be clear here. In 2023, the legislative session in 2023, so somewhere between January and, we could say it was appropriated. So it was at the passage of the budget in 2023 for fiscal year 2024 is when the legislature said, hey, we want the executive branch to start the process for this pay study, right? This will become apparent as to why this is important. Start the pay study in 2023, all 2024, all 2025, and no pay study, nothing, no conclusion. 2 years, no conclusion. And then we have a conclusion in January of this year. I'm sorry, I backed that up. They said that it was January of 2025. So now we've had January of 2025 to understand what the pay study and start to implement. And now we're coming to the legislature. The pay division is coming to the legislature in January of 26 saying, hey, we're going to need to find more information because the problem is bigger, I think, is what she's saying. We are going to need to have some more information in order to probably address the classification system, which is not necessarily what the legislature asked in 2023. The report coming from the people who are paid, the contractors who are hired to do the study, have identified that the classification system needs to be fixed. This is something that we've known for a long time. But here's a report that says, hey, we need to fix this problem. All right, so now we're saying, hey, it's going to take another year to implement this. So now we're into fiscal year 28, calendar year 27, before we're actually going to see implementation of this. All right. 23, it begins. All of 24, all of 25, and now all of 26. 3 years. Simply to figure out whether you're paying your employees appropriately or not. So you tell me, can you legitimately say, well, we care about our employees. I care about my employees' pay. And then it's going to take us 3 years to figure out whether we're paying you appropriately or not. How do you justify, how do you say, yeah, I care about our employees and we're going to be okay with this? Leadership should not be okay with this. Okay, next.
Director, how many iterations of reports were provided by Siegel to the department?
Siegel's the company.
And what I mean by that is, I see you've got this publishing date that spans, well, I guess it's a month and a half. Actually, it was a year ago today, but previous, I guess, parts were published. Where I'm going with this is, can you tell us how many times the state went back to Siegel and said, we want you to make an adjustment to your report?
Through the chair, I do not have that information. I've very recently joined the state of Alaska, and I just don't have that information.
Do you know whether there were instances where the state went back to Siegel and said, we need you to change how you've done your report?
Through the chair, since joining the state of Alaska in November, I have been focused on what the salary study report says. And it was, I think, on my second or third day of employment that I drafted the RFI to move this process forward. So I'm picking it up from where it is today. I don't have the information that you're asking for.
I guess my last question, because I know you're new to the division, is, and I'm capable of looking at the report and trying to figure it out, but does the report include anything about geographic differentials?
Through the chair, thank you for the question. No, the report does not. Geographic differentials are a separate compensation element negotiated with the unions, and so those are not included in the salary study.
I guess my last question is, and I think I know the answer, but does the state take a position that its communications with Siegel are proprietary? That if the public is curious about whether the report was swung in one way or another based on what was asked of Siegel, that's knowable by the public?
Through the chair, I apologize. I just don't have that information.
All right.
So I don't know whether you can see this line of questioning is coming from somebody who doubts that the administration has dealt honestly with Siegel, with what Siegel provided them. So the insinuation here is that the Dunleavy administration has somehow cooked the books with regards to this report, that the initial report that came, the initial information that was provided by the contractor Siegel may not have been what you wanted. And so we went back to Siegel and said, hey, can you rework this? We need something else. That's, I think, what the this line of questioning is for. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe my cynical nature is popping up here, but I think that's what Representative Josephson is getting at, is he has some reason to believe that the report shouldn't be trusted, or that it has been cooked or baked in to fit a particular narrative. I think that's why the line of questioning is happening. All right, next clip.
Thank you, Co-Chair Josephson. And this is kind of following along the same lines. If we, as I understand it, there's not to be changes made for 2027, but we're just getting an update now with the deadline of today. So I guess what I'm wondering is, are we going to expect that we may need another update, since now the data will not be fresh if we're looking at 2028? Do you anticipate that the data will be fresh enough that it will be applicable for the following year?
Director DeVeris.
Through the chair, Representative Galvin, thank you for the question. What we intend to receive through the request for information is not updated salary specific information about job classes. It's really more in the realm of how might we approach an overhaul to our pay and classification system. So, you know, I would imagine there will be some refining of data as we pursue those changes, but I do not believe the information we have in the 2025 salary study would not be useful. It'll be very useful.
Okay, thank you. And can you share with us what the cost is of these updates that we've been receiving? Is there an additional cost, or is it all inclusive of that first initial fee of $1 million?
Director DeVeris.
Through the chair, thank you, Representative Galvin, for the question. This was just a request for information. It was not, there's no cost associated with that.
Okay, thank you. And if I may, one final ask.
Sure, Representative Galvin.
Thank you. And so, to your knowledge, 3-year-old data on salaries would be appropriate enough to use then for a salary structure change that we may be looking to put in place not until 2028. That's where we are right now?
Director.
Through the chair, thank you, Representative Galvin, for the question. Yeah, these are really two different things. The salary study gave us information so that we would understand how our salaries generally compared with market. Those were based on benchmark jobs. And what we are looking at doing now is considering how we might make structural changes to the classification system. If we were, I guess the other thing to mention is I have a slide on the IT job class study, which we're getting ready to implement. When we do these things for specific job families or occupational series, we are looking then at more current data.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Representatives Bynum, then Hannon.
Thank you, Co-Chair Josephson, and through the chair, thank you for being here. I'm sorry if I missed it, just for the director, for clarification. So you're new here in the department, and the division, and I missed the part. Are you brand new to the division? Like you've come from outside, or you've been in the division and you've been promoted into this position?
Director.
Through the chair, thank you, Representative Bynum, for the question. Apologies. I am brand new to state service. I recently retired from federal service after a 31-year career.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
As a follow-up.
Yes, follow-up, Representative Bynum.
So, coming in, we obviously have this salary study that there's been a lot of conversation about, questions from the legislature about when we were going to see this, what are the parameters and the information that actually went into getting the information that we now have. As far as you're aware, was there a strategy, or is there a strategy on how we're going to deploy this and be implementing this RFI that went out? And I think back to Representative Stapp's question, is like he's wanting to just get my understanding is get an expectation about what is it that we can see coming forward. I have that same question, and what is that expectation? So instead of trying to pin you down to like a timeline, my question would be, ultimately, is there an overall strategy? If so, what is that? And if not, are you developing it?
Director.
Through the chair, Thank you for the question, Representative Bynum. I think the easy way to say that is being very new to this position and joining the Division of Personnel and the department when I have, this is among a set of very high priority areas of work that I'm undertaking. There will be a very collaborative approach to developing a strategy for pursuing the results of the salary study as would be necessary if we do in fact take on comprehensive changes to our classification plan and
Let's just pause here for a second. We've been listening for a while. You can sense the doubt or the concern in the legislators, both Republicans and Democrats, with what they're hearing right now, and must keep in mind that this individual self-identified as, I've only been here for a couple months, since November, right? So she's just getting her feet underneath her. The questions that are coming at her that she may or may not be able to answer because of that inexperience should probably be answered by someone in the department or in the division if there's somebody there that could answer this for her and help with answering the questions, except the chair is empty to her right. Commissioners should be sitting there. Commissioners get paid the big bucks to answer the hard questions from the legislature. But what I wanted to say here is this is 2026. We're going to have an election in November, and there'll be a new governor in 2027. With a new governor comes new commissioners and new priorities. So you can see where I'm going here, right? We paid for a study in 2023. 3 years later, we're still trying to get this study off the ground and into implementable policy to make our government better, to take care of our employees. And we're going to run right into an election. And who knows what happens with that election? Whoever on the other side of the election is sitting in the hot seat in the governor's mansion, and whoever gets appointed as the commissioner is going to have to make a decision. Do we continue on with what we did, or do we go a different direction? So what we're witnessing tonight, what was demonstrated here, is how incredibly difficult and how vitally important leadership is to getting things done within state government. From the chief executive to the commissioner, the elected and appointed positions, if you want to make sure that something that is important, vitally important, gets done, you've got to prioritize it. It's got to be the thing that we focus on, the thing that all of staff meetings are talking about, the thing that we're moving mountains to try to get done. And this is taking care of our employees. It should be at the top of our concern. 3 years, and we still don't have resolution. So you can't tell me that individuals' calendars have prioritized getting this done. You can't convince me of that. I will not believe you if you try. 3 years, and it's going to take longer. So let's finish this, and then we're almost done with the clips.
And, the pay scales would follow that. So this planning will have to happen in partnership with OMB and the governor's office. This information will have to be reviewed by the legislature. The unions will be involved. It will be quite a comprehensive project.
So quick follow-up?
Follow-up, Representative Bynum.
Thank you, Co-Chair Josephson. So for clarity, what we can expect coming from the division will be an overall goal or strategy that you're laying out and a vision about where is it that we actually want to go. Is that what I'm hearing? Or I guess I'll clarify. Or is this something that is actually coming from the administration saying that this is kind of our goals and what we want to do, and you've been asked to carry those out? Because I guess those are two very different things.
Director.
Through the chair, thank you again, Representative Bynum, for the question. It's not a question that I've posed myself. I will be taking the lead in reviewing the results of the RFI and coming up with a suite of options potentially for what we might do next. I consider that to be my responsibility.
Thank you very much.
Representative Hannan.
Thank you, Co-Chair Josephson. And Mr. Vrace, you may not have known, since you weren't there, that there was a lot of tension and expectation about what the salary study would tell us. I'm looking for a very narrow scope, and that is if OMB ran calculations on what implementing the benchmark jobs that they evaluated would cost us to implement at both the 50th and 65th percentile, because those were the things in the job. So instead of new data, I am looking to see the salary and wages, because I understand benefits would change based on percentages, but we've never seen what would it cost to implement this at the 50th percentile, at the 65th percentile. So I'd like to know, and I know that you're not going to know off the top of your head, were those calculations done by OMB, and can we have them?
Director.
Through the chair, thank you, Representative Hannan. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I think that's something that we'll have to follow up and get back to you on.
All right. So it's very clear. It's very clear that we've got a process in place that either through bureaucratic inertia or incompetence, or the fact that she's on her job 3 months, who was in her position before, and did they take this seriously? I don't know. I don't want to badmouth somebody that's not here to defend themselves, but 3 years later and we don't have resolution to a very, very important problem. You've got to ask the questions. You got to ask the questions, and I know you have been. Let me check in here. Good evening, Miguel, I believe it is. Oh yeah, she had a hard time answering Representative Stapp's question directly as a timing question. Your question here about how much does it cost the taxpayers with regard to the pay study that was already passed or appropriated in 2023 for fiscal year 24. That was $1 million that was appropriated for that pay study. I'm not clear that I heard a dollar figure for the request here or the classification work. She said it wasn't going to be a new study, but it was additional information that they need for the classification piece of this. And again, we go back, the pay study comes out and the contractor says, hey, you really ought to look at your classification. So now she comes on the job. Day 3, she says, she puts an RFI out to figure out how to get this classification business, implement or work on this recommendation from the contractor. Anyway, so I'm not entirely sure what that cost is going forward, but that's probably what the ask is, or what will be included in this year's budget is to fund that request. You're asking why didn't they do these studies all at once in the first place? Also, she doesn't have a timeline for this additional study to be done. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned that there isn't at least some goal to be done. And I know that she said that, hey, it'll probably take another year. You would think that if you're going to set out on an effort like this, that you would start at a date in a calendar that says, hey, we need to have our pace, we have to know what we're going to be paying our employees, whether we're competitive or not. We need that by the end of the year. We need to have it by the end of next year. Or put a date on a calendar, right? Like any good manager would do, any leader that wants to accomplish something. You're going to say, hey, here's the date. We need to backwards plan from there and do whatever we got to do with the resources that we have to be able to get that that objective met. And if we're not going to be able to, then we go back to the legislature and say, hey, look, we got an issue. We need more money. We need whatever. So the fact that they don't really understand or don't know, either it is people are new to the job or don't know what they're doing, or it could be that things are being slow rolled. I want to go, and I'm not sure that I really want to go. I don't really want to go down this, but we got to go down this. You asked, can the legislature ask for the commissioners to come? Yeah, absolutely they can. There's an expectation, and I didn't pull the clips here, but there's some frustration on the committee members' part, if you watch the full video, that the commissioner is not sitting there right now. And I can tell you that it is frustrating that you've got that as a legislator sitting there with a requirement to ask good questions and have good answers, or at least have the questions heard and then come back with good answers, right? That the commissioner's not sitting there. Now, I get it. They're human beings. I don't know. Maybe there's a family member in the hospital and they can't be there. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the reason why they're not there, but they should be there. This is like this is the second week of legislative session. There probably is not anything more important for commissioners than being available to the legislature at the start of the session. We know that House Finance and Senate Finance are going to have commissioners and division directors before them asking questions as we work through the governor's budget. As the finance committee, that's their task, is to work through the governor's budget. So having the people there who are responsible to actually answer the questions, that's important. to not have the commissioner there, I can tell you as a legislator, I would be frustrated with that, because now we're wasting time. Like, I'm asking you questions, and now I gotta wait for you to get to the commissioner. You guys figure it out. Email me an answer. I don't know. What is that? Hours, days before you get an answer back? And then my focus is on something else that's happening on the day that you get me the answer back. So now I gotta get back to this conversation. The commissioner should be there. Let's see. Good question. Why was there not someone more knowledgeable there, like the commissioner, to answer the questions? That is the $1 million question. I don't know what the ask is. I don't know what money they're looking for in this budget to do all of this, but that is the question. Why wasn't somebody there? It's frustrating for us to be watching this and see that there's bureaucratic inertia to, I don't know, do nothing, or just it's not a priority. I don't know. Okay. I want to go back to something I said that we're going to come back to this. This is a clip of what Devaris already said, but it bears repeating.
The study provides valuable insight into how the state of Alaska base pay compares with market benchmarks. The report highlights the complexities of the state's current classification and pay system.
Complexities of the classification and pay system. Okay. There's a lot here. It's a big onion with a whole lot you can peel down to, right? Bureaucracy has grown over time. This pay system and the classifications is a thought process. It's an effort that was undertaken years ago on how we're going to structure defining what employees we're going to hire and how much we're going to pay them. Just layman's terms, right? Got to figure it out. How are we going to hire people to do the things government is going to do, right? So we're going to create this system and then enter in all of the special interests and the unions wanting to have their hand. And okay, so bureaucracy creates this system, classification and pay system, that the contractor comes in and says, hey, you paid us to give you recommendations for how to make things better, how to make things less costly. And we recognize that your system, your pay system, is what is actually the problem. That's what's actually causing it. So let me go back and let her speak again.
State's current classification and pay system, particularly the challenges posed by the broad pay structures that group diverse occupational roles under a single pay plan. The structure limits the state's ability to make across-the-board changes.
Okay, the state is being limited by the system that was created. How many ever years ago it was? The system that was created by people at that time, that system is limiting the state from making changes to the system and to the concepts, the real world necessity of changing pay structures for employees. Okay? So if you want to reduce costs, not only do you have to identify, what employees do I need, what employees do I not need? Where is the work being done, and where do I have an employee that's not doing anything, right? And I'm oversimplifying it for the sake of the argument. Before I can even get to any of that, I've got this classification system, the bureaucracy, that's standing in the way from being able to do any of the improvements that you as a manager, you as a commissioner, you as the governor elected, as legislators. The legislators can't even see what's going on, right? They don't even understand or know the challenges that are going on within the classification system. They don't even know. It's so far deep into the minutia of government that it's not, I mean, it's knowable, but it's not known. Now, that we have a problem has been known for a number of years, but putting your finger exactly on the problem has been the challenge. So now we've got this concept of the system itself is a problem. All right. Now I want to change subject for just a second. We also have a bill in the legislature, and it has been for a number of years, that says, hey, we're having recruiting and retention problems. And the reason that we have recruiting and retention problems is because we don't have a defined benefits retirement system. And here are all the reasons, and here are all the smart people that say, if you just put a defined benefits system in place, then you'll be able to retain people and you'll be able to recruit people better. And here we have a pay system that is highlighted, a classification system is highlighting a problem that explains why we have vacancies and why we have recruiting and retention problems. We're not paying people appropriately. Some are getting overpaid, some are getting underpaid. Our chronic vacancies in the state, and this is something that the final year that I was in the legislature, I said, how many vacancies do we have? This is positions that are authorized, but don't have a person hired. How many of those do we have? And I don't remember the exact number of vacancies, but the dollar figure appropriated to all of the vacancies was approximately $300 million. Now, some of that is legitimate because you've got natural churn. You've got employees that come and go, and it's just it happens. Okay. So I'm not saying that all of that is inappropriate money being appropriated, but there were positions, and I assume that there are positions currently that have not been filled in years. There was one position in the Department of Fish and Game, if I remember correctly, that hadn't had a heartbeat in it for 10 years. But that position had been funded in every budget since. What happened to the money? If memory serves me, it was a lower pay position. And the sum of money over that decade was somewhere north of $1 million that had been appropriated for that position. Nobody had been there to collect the paycheck. But we don't have any money lapsing at the end of the year. That's what happens when you get money appropriated to a department and you didn't spend it all. It just lapses back to the general fund, and then the government gets to reappropriate it the next fiscal year. So we're not lapsing this money back. We're spending all the money at the end of the year, and we've even got a supplemental budget this year that says, hey, you didn't give us enough in the budget that you passed last year. We need more. So we're not lapsing this money. It's getting spent. So this chronic vacancy issue in the state of Alaska has everything to do with this pay system and the classification system. Has everything to do with it. Those chronic vacancies, they signal that our compensation system is structurally misaligned with the labor market realities rather than a temporary problem that can be just addressed through leadership and bureaucracy. You've got a systemic problem. Alaska's been dealing with high vacancy rates for years. It's not just one bad hiring cycle. It's not just, hey, because of COVID, we can't hire anybody. That's not it. It's been years and years and years that we've been dealing with this problem. It's not temporary. And when jobs stay empty for a long time, it means that employees or potential employees might have been looking for a job, but they're choosing other employers. They're not picking that job. So why is that? Now, I want to caveat and say, when I looked at the vacancies, I also asked legislative research to tell me how many positions are actually being recruited for on our website. Like, if departments have 100 vacancies, do they have 100 job openings? Are we actually advertising? And the answer was no. The advertised positions did not match your vacancies. So I honestly believe that the bureaucracy is not attempting to hire for all positions. I honestly believe that. So you look at a vacancy and you say, is this job really needed? Is the position really needed? Or is the position just a placeholder for a sum of money that the department wants to have? Our state administrators have said, hey, we got a pay system that's too complicated and it's too slow to respond to the job market. We've got contractors here that we've paid that are saying the same thing. You've got a state that cannot respond quick enough. The bureaucracy cannot respond quick enough. When private employers have these issues with employees not, leaving for the competition, they move quickly. The state can't. It cannot physically move appropriately. So it is incorrect to tie recruiting and retention to a defined benefits retirement system without addressing the pay and classification system. Most new employees are not thinking about retirement. They're thinking about their paycheck, putting food on the table for their families. So we haven't kept workers and we've lost workers because we cannot address our pay and classification system. Three years, and now it'll be 4 or 5 years before, and if it even survives the next governor, the next gubernatorial election and becomes a priority for the next governor. So this employee vacancy piece is showing that we have this systemic problem across all of our agencies. It is a system problem, not a lack of effort, not a lack of hey, we want things to be better. It's a system problem. So the current management solution here is to shift costs into overtime. And I think that's where a lot of this vacancy cost is. The vacancy, the money that's being appropriated for vacancies. I think that it's paying for overtime because that's the thing that you're going to have to do. You got vacant positions, you can't hire somebody, even if you take it in and say, hey, let's legitimate, they've got the position open and it's on the website and they just can't find anybody to hire because it doesn't pay enough. I saw one full-time job that was a $30,000 a year job. Well, that might have been good a decade ago, 2 decades ago, I don't know, $30,000, but I don't think people are going to take a full-time $30,000 job now. Very few people would, I think. Anyway, the position could be legitimately vacant. Not all of them are, but some could. But that doesn't mean the work that's required of that position doesn't go away. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it. Who are you going to get it done? You don't have somebody to hire. You look to current employees and you say, well, I guess I'm going to have to pay you overtime. You got to lean on who you got. There's a saying in the war, in the Army, you go to war with the people you have, not the people you want. So you got to figure out how to get the job done. Overtime, it looks like a short-term fix, right? It's the only thing I have available. Look, guy, I need you to do this, and I'm going to pay you overtime to do it. But that's in the long run more expensive than hiring somebody. Why is it more expensive? Well, you might be able to say, hey, we've got some savings here because we're not hiring somebody. And therefore, I've got this pool of money that I can pay you for overtime. I didn't have to hire them. I saved money there, but I paid you overtime and I'm saving money. But that's just cost shifting it, because what ends up happening is you end up burning employees out. Too much overtime burns employees out. And I think that's what I heard from employees in the legislatures. Look, we have problems with leadership. We have problems with not having enough employees. We're burnt out. Blaming recruiting and retention problems, systemic organizational problems on a lack of a defined benefit system is strategic and it's misleading. This is the bureaucracy not wanting to deal with what it actually needs to deal with. 3 years, now it's going to be 4 or 5 years before we get a resolution to the pay and benefits, or at least the pay scale and the classification. So why does overtime matter? Well, your defined benefit retirement obligations. So for the defined benefits that we currently owe approximately $8 billion, if Senator Stedman's got his math right, that defined benefits retirement system is being indirectly inflated by day-to-day workforce management failures. This is a failure to deal with this system. It makes pensions and the cost of pensions a downstream consequence of non-agile pay systems, of this system that we have created. Overtime pay counts towards your retirement calculations. That means when employees work a lot of overtime, their future pension checks go up permanently. More overtime, more pension. Some may say that this reason alone is why you have resistance to fixing the system. It's like baked into the system because you don't want to fix it. It benefits the people who have been here the longest. Your senior employees, their pension benefits increase and they benefit from this complexity. You can't fix it because it's too complex. If it takes an entire 4 years to fix this and it goes into an election cycle, there's always the chance that you never get it fixed because the next guy doesn't focus on it. My intent here is not to cast aspersions on managers, but only to call out that there is a potential for abuse. So, overtime. It isn't just a short-term expense. It creates long-term costs that last for decades, okay, through this retirement system. Our decision makers, our managers are saying, hey, we just solved the problem with overtime because that's all I've got available. And in doing so, they are unintentionally raising our pension liabilities into the future. That's why when I started the legislature in 2019, first budget was fiscal year 20 budget, I was sitting on House Finance. I was told it was somewhere over $6 billion is what we owed to the current defined benefit system. And now I heard Senator Stedman said we're around $8 billion. So I don't know whether that's because we're not paying things off, whether it's investments that aren't working out, whether it's inflation. I don't know. I don't know what the cause is, but that's the numbers that we're working with. So the decisions that we're making are causing us to have more cost into the future. It's not a problem with workers per se. It's predictable. It's how the system is designed. We've got a complex system. Yet if you had designed a simpler system, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. are staffing decisions that managers are forced to make, are driving up costs in the future through this retirement cost window, the overtime in increasing costs for retirement. So where does this leave us? You said, Ben, you're such a downer. If it's broken, what are we going to do about it? This is where leadership comes in. Everything rises and falls with leadership. This requires, it is not going to happen if it does not have gubernatorial leadership. So you got candidates that are running for elected office to be your next governor. Can any of them articulate this problem or solutions to this problem? Can any of them? You got to figure that out. You want to reduce the cost of government, you got to deal with pay and classification. Any hope to have downward pressure on the cost of your government, you have to deal with pay and benefits. You have to. Is the next governor going to confront this inertia to do nothing? 3 years, now we're going to have a fourth. Who knows whether it'll take a fifth to actually get something through the legislature and fix this problem. That is the inertia, to do nothing. The governor is the one that aligns what the legislature says is appropriated money for and the priorities to the agencies. And that individual does that through the people who he appoints, and the legislature confirms, by the way, as your commissioners. Then we hire division directors and bureaucrats to execute the will of the executive. There's legislative intent that gets put into budgets that sometimes gets ignored, but that's another way that what the managers are supposed to do per what the legislature says. Fixing this problem is not going to happen by accident. The bureaucracy is not going to fix itself unless somebody has got their thumb on it saying this is a priority and we are going to force a solution to this problem. It takes clear leadership from the governor. There is no other entity in our state that can impact the successful reform of our pay and classification system. It takes the governor. Someone has to be willing to say to the current system, hey, I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm not saying you didn't do your job, but we got a broken system. We've got to spend time looking inward at ourselves, at what we're doing, and stop defending it because it's what we've got. It's what we know. Real reform means simplifying our job classifications and making pay adjustments faster and more targeted so that the government is more nimble and it can move, it can make decisions quicker based on economic forces. Painting over that complexity and that inability to be nimble with a solution that says, hey, we just need to throw more money at the project. We just need a better defined benefits system. We need more retirement system, and this will put the golden handcuffs on employees and they won't be able to leave. Labor and Commerce took the bill that passed out of the House that said, we'll create this new defined benefit system and employees would be able to choose between a defined contribution and a defined benefit. Labor and Commerce said, you know what? We don't want employees to have a choice. So if you're not vested, you don't get to choose. You're going to go into the defined benefit system. Never mind, the employee might not intend to be here for 20 years and be able to retire from the state. They only intend to be here for 5 or 10 years. They don't get to choose if the bill gets passed the way that the Senate Labor and Commerce Committee substitute was passed. You got to fix how we're paying our people and stop telling us that it's a defined benefits retirement problem that's dealing with that's a causation of recruiting retention problems. No, you know what this whole thing The fact that the bureaucracy cannot address this, the fact that it is so complex and they can't fix themselves, is just an example. It's just an example of ineptness in our managers to do other things. Like, if you can't fix yourself, then there are probably other decisions that are getting made that employees don't like, that are leading to employees saying, you know what, it's just not worth it. There are dumb things that are happening and I don't need this anymore and I'm going to leave. Has nothing to do with retirement. You can't pay me enough to stay here. Why can't we be smart and fix the problems in our government? We got to resist this temptation to just throw money at a problem, create a bigger retirement system as the solution to the problem. Fix your pay problem. Holy cow, can you imagine putting a new retirement system on top of a broken pay and classification system? Your foundation is your pay and classification system for the retirement. So you're putting a new retirement system on top of a broken system. It's a recipe for disaster. It's a whole lot easier to come at people and say, hey, we've got a solution. We're going to throw some money at it and we'll give you a new sweet retirement system. Don't look behind the curtain over here. Yeah, it's, this system's complex and we all have to deal with this pay problem, but who can really fix it? In the long run, the leader who focuses on fixing the system fixes the government. It fixes the cost drivers that are driving the costs in our government. What did we fight over for education funding increase? It was less than $300 million. You've got tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars tied up in vacant positions, likely because you're using it for overtime or other things to get the job done, because we cannot address our pay and classification system. We do not have the right people in the right positions because our pay and classification system is broken. Got my buttons confused here. Don't need the video anymore. What I want to get to is your comments here. Miguel, you say this will cost us now only, imagine, $2 million to do the additional study. Is that what you heard? I don't remember what I heard, whether it would be an additional $2 million. So we're going to be paying for the study of the study. We already paid for it to have the answer, possibly another 3 years. Yeah, that's at some point in time, the responsible person says, come on, are you pulling my leg here? Are we really that inept? I mean, you can't blame the person, the Ms. Tavares. You can't blame her. She's been here 3 months. She just identified that she spent 30 years at the federal level, so she's fully aware. She's fully aware of bureaucracy. Guarantee it. Her fingerprints are not on this problem. She said on day 3, she said, hey, well, we got to deal with the classification problem. That's what the problem is. Let's deal with it. Now she has to come to the legislature for asking for more money. What if all these vacant positions do years and years that certain legislators refuse to get rid of? Honestly, I think that the legislature doesn't understand, and therefore taking action is risky. It is less risky to just leave the system as it is, because if you do something, you break it, and you do something that you shouldn't have done, then you're going to get blamed for it. So I don't want to do that. It's less risky. I don't know. I don't understand why somebody wouldn't want to spend the time to fix the problem, especially if it could reduce the cost of government. But that's where we're at. Outmigration, Miguel. Yeah. I mean, we from what I've seen, the state of Alaska in the last few years has been kind of flat. We have, or maybe at a slight increase of population. But if you look at it over the last decade, yes, we've had a fluctuation to a reduction of people in the state of Alaska. You know, that's what I was thinking too. $30,000 before taxes, that's not going to cut it for a full-time job. Yeah. I'm still waiting to hear what I need to hear. I want to see which gubernatorial candidate is actually going to be reform-minded about the government and not just give me lip service, not tell me platitudes that they understand the problem. I want to know that you understand the problem and you actually have solutions to fix it. So I'm waiting to hear that. Wouldn't be a breath of fresh air to have someone serving in our state government that doesn't worry about re-elections and just get the job done no matter the outcome. It would be. I think those people are few and far between. I don't know whether you've got any. I think you might have one gubernatorial candidate who would fit that bill, but as I look at the list, I think all of them could be looking for what's coming up next. I don't know. I don't want to be overly critical here, but it is what it is. Like, do we have anybody that's going to commit? I only want to be here for 4 years. I want to fix the problem and be done. Do we have anybody that would commit to that? That's what it would take. Like, you're going to ruffle some feathers. To fix this problem, you're going to ruffle feathers. You got to send a change agent in there, right? Somebody who's interested in changing things, not somebody who's going to keep the ship sailing in the same direction. Like, we have to alter course. We've got to break some things and put them back together in a simpler fashion, in a fashion that actually makes sense. Don't send somebody that's afraid to break things. I don't want to make people mad. Keep the peace. Have unity. Government, it is what it is. We just take more of the dividend. Can't fix it. It's too big. It's bigger than one person. I don't know what arguments you're going to get about people not wanting to do the hard thing. But you got to send somebody down there that's going to be willing to break things in order to fix them. That's what it requires. All right. I think I've ran out of steam on my soapbox. I hope this has been helpful. If there's a bunch of Alaskans asking gubernatorial candidates about pay system and classification system, then I'll know that I did something right. We need to get the message out to gubernatorial candidates. I would say legislative candidates as well, once they start running for office, that this is something that's a priority. You want to have any hope of reducing costs, long-term costs of government, especially in retirement systems, healthcare systems, you got to deal with your pay and classification system. Got to deal with it. Yes, it hurts. You're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off. You got to do it. You got to do it. No other options. All right, folks. I am 14 minutes over time. I am sorry to do that to you. Not only did we have to sit through a house finance meeting, yeah, for most people, I took us 14 minutes over. Sorry for doing that. I'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. We'll figure something to talk about and bring to your attention. I'm sure there's something to talk about. All right. Have a good night, folks. Wish you the best.